My wife took off her ring, holding it between her fingers like it was an annoyance rather than a symbol of the life we'd built together. "It doesn't fit my style anymore," she said, sliding it into the velvet box on the table. I stared at her, numb, feeling like the air had been sucked out of the room. "Neither does our marriage," I whispered, the words tasting bitter but honest. I remember the first time I noticed the shift. It was subtle at first. She laughed less at my jokes, brushed off my questions about her day with a distracted smile, and started spending longer hours at work. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid. But deep down I felt the walls closing in, a cold certainty gnawing at me. She was always the life of the party, radiant and charming, the woman I'd fallen for at 24, thinking our love was unshakable. And maybe it was, until it wasn't. Until the late nights became normal. Until she started coming home with lipstick stains she couldn't quite wash off. Until I realized that the warmth I remembered in her eyes had been replaced by something distant, calculating. The day I discovered the first undeniable proof was like stepping off a cliff into darkness. I had been waiting for her at home, pretending to be distracted while my phone buzzed incessantly on the counter. She came in later than usual, and when I glanced at her phone screen lying face up on the kitchen counter, I saw his name. Not just once but dozens of messages. Texts that should have made me laugh, but instead made my heart break with each word. "I miss you, can we see each other tonight? I wish you were here." I tried to speak, to demand answers, but the words lodged in my throat. I wanted to scream, to rip her apart for lying, for betraying every promise we had made in front of our families, for turning our marriage into a secret affair I wasn't allowed to see. She looked at me with that calm, almost serene expression that used to comfort me, but now made me sick. "It's nothing," she said. "Just a friend." A friend. That word echoed in my head for days. I replayed every dinner, every weekend trip, every time she worked late, or met a colleague for coffee. I should have seen it. I wanted to see it but chose to ignore it because the truth was unbearable. And then that night when she removed the ring with such casual contempt, it hit me fully. The marriage was over, even if we hadn't said it out loud. For weeks I couldn't look at her without seeing his face behind hers. I couldn't sit next to her on the couch without imagining the messages, the secret smiles, the whispered lies. The betrayal had become a living thing between us, feeding off my sleepless nights, my hollow mornings and my quiet, simmering rage. I wanted revenge, yes, but not the kind that screamed or crashed through walls. I wanted it subtle, surgical, something she would feel as the slow, unavoidable consequence of her choices. I started paying attention like a detective, piecing together evidence, documenting her habits, the times she left, the patterns of her deception. I watched as she grew careless, confident in her ability to manipulate, and I smiled inwardly because now I had the upper hand. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. She left her laptop open one night, forgotten in her haste, and there it was, the full, unedited confession of her affair, complete with names, dates, and the cruel little jokes they had shared behind my back. I printed everything, each page a brick in the wall I was building around our truth. And then I waited. I waited for her to come home that night, for her to walk in, expecting me to still be blinded by love or denial. She didn't notice the pile of papers on the dining table until she stepped into the light, her heels clicking, her smile faltering. "What's this?" she asked, a hint of fear creeping in. I didn't answer. I let her read, page by page, as the laughter and casual familiarity she thought was hidden spilled into the open. Her hands trembled, and for the first time in months, I saw her truly powerless. "Why, how?" she stammered, and I finally spoke. "Because the truth doesn't fit your style either, just like your ring." She tried to argue, to justify, to make excuses, but I didn't listen. Her words bounced off the walls, empty echoes compared to the weight of the betrayal she had carved into our lives. For the first time I felt a strange sense of calm. The anger that had burned in me for weeks was replaced with clarity. The marriage had been poisoned, but at least now the poison was out in the open. In the weeks that followed we lived in silence. She packed her things and left, carrying only the remnants of a life she had destroyed. I stayed behind, in the house that suddenly felt too large, too empty, yet strangely freeing. I would never say I forgave her, but I also realized I had been given a gift, the chance to see clearly, to reclaim myself from the person I had become in love with, a stranger. Sometimes I catch myself staring at the empty ring box. I don't miss the ring, not really. What I miss is the illusion of safety, the belief that love alone was enough to protect us from human weakness. But I also don't miss the lies, the whispered deceit, the secret life that could have swallowed me whole. And for the first time in months, I can breathe. The lesson is sharp and unyielding. Trust can be broken in silence, but truth has a way of finding its way into the light. And though it hurt more than I thought I could bear, I finally understood that the only thing worse than betrayal is pretending it never happened. I survived, I learned, and I realized that some rings don't fit, not because of style, but because the hand wearing them was never meant to stay. And neither did she.